honey, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a business owner and we're going to make us rich. It's just not possible in the real world. It's just financially not. How can I turn this problem into something propels me to better things?
At the time, I was so frustrated by it all. I was sitting there on my computer doing real estate classes and trying to understand how to transition to this new lifestyle that wasn't necessarily all about my physical labor, getting it all done. And I was so frustrated by it. By now, looking backwards, I realized I didn't waste that time. And that was, even though sometimes we're frustrated with the way things are going right now, by continuing to take the next step forward in your journey, you're actually on that mission to not be salary capped like I originally wanted to do. Yeah. But the minute you quit taking steps forward, you're immediately placing yourself back under that shelter of being stuck.
Welcome to the Landlife Podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Landlife Podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Guys, if you're getting value from this podcast, don't forget, like, subscribe, leave 5 stars. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, leave me a review, a real quick review, nothing crazy. Hey, I saw JW on the podcast today. I really want to buy a ranch from him. How do I move forward? Something like that. That'd be nice. Or, your hat looks dumb. You can put that too. I don't care. At the end of the podcast, if what JW says resonates with you, if you're like, dude, I want to keep talking to this guy at the end of the podcast, he's going to give you a way where you can get in contact with him, social media handles, email, something like that. That way you guys can keep the conversation going. Otherwise, guys, JW Robinson, let me give you a quick review real quick here. He's in Cody, Wyoming, which is the big city in Wyoming compared to all the other cities out there. That's one of the bigger towns. He's a ranch broker. So kind of what I do is I sell, properties, vacant land. JW is kind of the same thing, just at a much higher dollar level. So bigger properties, nicer stuff. Does that sound about right, JW?
Yeah, you're on the right track.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, give us a little background about you, like who you are, where you're from, and kind of what got you to the point we're at now.
All right. So JW Robinson, I'm up here in Cody, Wyoming, and I was actually born down in your neck of the woods in Denver, Colorado, but been in Cody, Wyoming for 23 years and all over the state of Wyoming and other Rocky Mountain Western states. But we have a small ranch out here in Wyoming where we raise grass and alfalfa hay. We raise our own beef, feed my family, sell a few of them. We got horses. We go into the back country of Yellowstone National Park and the surrounding areas, fly fishing and goofing off with my 3 kids. I have a son, Tucker, and my daughters, Tristan and Taryn. And then my wife and I have been married for 17 years.
Nice.
So we are heavily involved in real estate. We have a few business development projects that we are involved in that are ours as well. And yeah, we keep a full schedule between the kids, our business, and our just normal everyday life. So that's us.
That's awesome. So what got you into this though? Like, were you going to college for ranch development? Did you have family members, friends that are like, hey, here's what you should do? Nobody goes into that.
Right. So I actually have an education background coming out of college, but I always loved the mountains, the ranch atmosphere, really the hunting, fishing, outfitting type background. There's a lot of that up here because of the proximity to Yellowstone National Park. We're like one of the largest wilderness areas. We are the largest wilderness area if you exclude Alaska in the United States. So I love that stuff, the fly fishing, the hunting, the backcountry, horseback riding, backpacking, all those different things. So after college, it's like, what do you do? Do you go get a job as a school teacher or what are you going to do? And I kind of always felt like we push 18-year-olds to make a decision to go off to college and they really don't have a clue, a lot of them yet, what they're wanting to do or who they're wanting to be. So when I got all said and done with it, I kind of launched out into this ranch this ranch world, and I became a ranch manager for really good friends of mine now. But at the time, I was 26-year-old young man. I didn't know anything. And I became a ranch manager on a ranch outside of Cody called the Hawkeye Ranch. And we stayed there 8 years. We had a staff of, 10 people every summer. Some summers we even had as many as 20. We learned management. We learned leadership. We were young. My wife and I were married, had no kids. And we gave trips into the wilderness. We did, dinners at the ranch with private chefs, and we took care of people in every way, as well as learned to manage the agricultural side of the ranch. So it was really like a resort recreational guest ranch, but it also had an element of horses, cattle, hay production, that kind of stuff. And so we really learned both sides, which then later on, as we got older, we moved closer to town because we eventually had kids, and the kids were involved in sports. My son's heavily involved in hockey. Nice. And my daughter's involved in basketball, and living out at the ranch was super complicated for us, traveling to all these practices and doing it. So we moved into town. We bought our own small ranch. We do a lot of the same things personally, but now we're just like a 10-minute drive from town instead of an hour drive from town. So the interesting part is, though, all that knowledge I gained in my 20s working with wealthy clients that would come in the ranch as guests. And we also did all the agricultural backside to it all, kind of launched me into a knowledge base I had about these ranches and the land. Those sorts of land assets are being sold to people that can afford them, obviously, which is the wealthy, right? People that have some amount of money. So as we moved to town, we kind of transitioned into real estate, and the local real estate world served us well. We had a lot of contacts and networks, and we got some commercial deals, some residential deals, and farm and ranch deals. And eventually we kind of made a shift to where we're at now, where we're exclusively working with the ag real estate, recreational ranch properties, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. So now real quick, I think the ability to transition is super important, right? From different parts of your life to the next part. Now, you said you were working in this ranch, the Hawkeye Ranch, learning all the details, all the ins and outs of a business, but it's totally different actually going out and starting your own thing, right? I mean, sure. Night and day, working for somebody and having, maybe learning from somebody, and now saying, all right, go do your own. Now, I mean, where do I go? Do I work from my house? Do I need an office? So what did that first deal look like for you guys when you first jumped out?
That's a great observation, great question. But so I left there, and my wife and I have talked about this for years, but I kind of blamed it on my kids a minute ago. Like, I needed to move closer to town for their sports and their life and everything else. But the reality is, at the ranch, we were feeling a little bit salary capped, is what we call it. Mm-hmm. In other words, like, we're always going to be right here doing this thing, and we can't really expand to earn more, be more, do more, like we ultimately have a desire to do. And we called it being salary capped, right? And so we really wanted to leave the ranch world and launch out on our own entrepreneurship, business, sales, where your income then is based on the efforts you put in and the results and value you give to others in order to produce more. So that's what we're going to do. And I mean, I launch off and I start. The first place I buy, I build my own house. I build a huge horseback riding arena on a alfalfa hay farm. And I start a horse training business, giving clients lessons, training outside horses, training and selling horses, because this is what I know, this is what I'm good at. But I had zero understanding of business, and I had zero understanding of what it really took to make this stuff work, right? And I did a really good job for a lot of clients, but the business side of it was just a learning curve of going to debt, sell stuff and pay your way back out of debt,
Yeah.
spend more money to try to acquire more clients. When do we hire our first guy to help us so we can have more clients yet? And I just was unprepared for what business was really going to be like, right?
Yeah.
And along the way, I added the real estate sales to it when I was going to sell that horse ranch that I had built myself. I finally was like, all right, I'm gaining some traction. I'm learning some things, but I'm salary capped at this horse ranch as to what my back can produce, right? And what I'm capable of doing. And so I'm still thinking bigger. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to develop. And I'm thinking, where do we go next? What do we do? So I put the horse ranch up for sale. And I had a real estate friend of mine that was going to list the property for us. And he listed it for a while. And I kept scratching my head about the commissions. I was like, this dude's going to make as much money as I'm going to make after 10 months of breaking my back over here, you know? And so I kind of was like, you know, that's interesting. I wonder, I could sell real estate, and I understand property. I grew up building spec homes with my dad. So I understood residential spec home building. I understood commercial rentals, having rented a few places, and I understood the farm and ranch side of things. So I started transition thinking about it. And one day I blew out my L4 disc, and I ended up having to have back surgery. And so they told me not to ride the horses, not to do the farm work, and not to be involved in the physical labor for 6 weeks. And I go, what do I do next? Right. Mm-hmm. So while I'm sitting on the couch and the horses are just eating my money, right, I'm going, what do I do next? And so I said, I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to take this 6 weeks and become a real estate agent. And that's when I added real estate to our entrepreneurial journey, I guess you could say.
Yeah. That's super interesting. So you had a job, you're basically working at this ranch. Now, while you had that job, you started building this business, right? You started doing the horse ranch, you know, you started putting things together that were outside of that day job. I think that's really important too, because I think a lot of people want to quit their day job and just build a business, right? They just want to start. But that's not smart, especially when you have a family, you're married, you have responsibilities. You know, you can't just, honey, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a business owner and we're going to make us rich. You know, it's just not possible in the real world. It's just financially not. So while you had this job, you were working on something, and then you get injured, can't do the job. So you still make use of that time to build something else that's going to move you forward. That's super interesting too. Like, no wasted time. How many people would have said, dude, my back's hurt, man, I can't work. Just we'll do some unemployment. You know, we'll do that for the next couple of years. Then when I heal, I'll just go back to working there. Right. But you were thinking something different. You're like, well, how can I turn this problem into something that propels me to better things? Right.
Sure. Yeah. And I think one of the important lessons for me, I've taken away from that now, that was nearing 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But one of the lessons that I took away from it was, at the time, I was so frustrated by it all. I was sitting there on my computer doing real estate classes and trying to understand how to transition to this new lifestyle that wasn't necessarily all about my physical labor, getting it all done.
Yeah. And
I was so frustrated by it. By now, looking backwards, I realized I didn't waste that time. And that was, even though sometimes we're frustrated with the way things are going right now, by continuing to take the next step forward in your journey, you're actually on that mission to not be salary capped like I originally wanted to do. Yeah. But the minute you quit taking steps forward, you're immediately placing yourself back under that shelter of being, stuck.
Sure. And I think speed is important too. Not wasting time, really moving quickly. When you see an opportunity, get it. Don't waste. I was talking to somebody the other day. I've missed many opportunities. Don't get me wrong. That's why I'm saying speed is important. we were talking about a house in Florida I was going to buy. And this was 4 years ago, something like that. And it was like a $200,000 house. Right. And I was like, nah, I saw these for sale, 180 last year. I'll give you 180. And they're like, no, we'll pass. The next year they doubled. Each one of these houses was $400,000.
Oh, yeah.
Totally missed my chance. I could have just easily taken it, but no, I had to be the smart guy and move super slow. So speed, take advantage of opportunities when they're there, because they may not be there tomorrow. That real estate deal.
More.
Yeah. You got to take advantage of every opportunity you're given, or it may not be there tomorrow. I think your wife will be pretty happy when you're making money instead of thinking about what could have happened. Like mine.
Right. Yeah. And I think about taking advantage of those opportunities quickly. You're going to miss some of the opportunities. You're going to drag your feet,
Sure.
or maybe you're not going to quite be smart enough. So you're hesitant, or you're wondering what your risk is. And some of those things are okay, but you still have to learn how to make that fast action in order to have some opportunities. And if you don't, you're going to end up always on the backside of the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but don't beat yourself up too bad, because I think everybody that's on the journey, whether it's you, whether it's me, or anybody else either one of us encounters in that entrepreneurial space, you're always going to miss an opportunity along the way.
Oh, yeah. 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 And there's going to be, assuming you put yourself in position to succeed, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Some will be, what's the Bible verse? Some were planted on fertile ground. Some were planted in rocks. Some were planted on unfertile ground, right? So you're going to have all these opportunities coming to you. Some are going to be good and they're going to work out. Some are going to look great and they won't work out. Some, the other party will not want it to work out, right? But if you put yourself in position to be a part of all these opportunities, the right ones will work out.
Yeah, I like that. It's also cool because we both sell dirt.
Yeah,
it's kind of an interesting old Bible passage related.
Absolutely, I know it works out great. It just seems to work out.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. So that was the starting point. You've moved significantly past that point. Like in the past 10 years, you're selling, we're talking big ranches, very expensive ranches, right? Very wealthy people. How does that look today?
Well, so along the way, I had the opportunity to shift and go to work with Fay Ranches out of Bozeman, Montana. And Fay Ranches has been around for 30 years. Originally, Fay Fly Fishing Properties was the original name of the company. And as they grew and developed and expanded, they realized it wasn't just fly fishing properties in Montana. It was ag properties all over the West. It was recreational real estate in the Rocky Mountains. And it was farms and ranches that produce cattle, hay, crops. And so they've expanded, and now they have that name of just Fay Ranches. And we have brokers all over the United States, not just in Wyoming. Wyoming just happens to be my territory.
Yeah.
And so, going to work with Fay Ranches for me was all about getting a bigger bat to swing, to have these conversations with those high dollar properties. When I first started in real estate, I was with a small hometown company, DBW, and my wife actually still works for them. And she's in that residential space. So we're still in a good working relationship with the company that I originally started with. And so any of those leads that we get from our personal local network, she can handle those leads now through that same company. But I took a step towards Fay just so that when I went to talk to somebody with a $10 million ranch or a $20 million ranch, or even a $3 million log cabin on 10 acres, that I had the correct marketing platform to help them sell that property.
Yeah. So we talked about this before. Now you've worked with some pretty famous people, right? And I know one of them. Now I think this is super cool, and I think everybody else would think this is pretty cool too. Like give us one example of a famous person that you have worked with
Sure.
and gotten them a ranch?
Sure. So I worked with Kanye West when he was in Cody, Wyoming. And I helped him out there on their ranch a little bit along the way while they owned it. And then when he decided to leave the area, they hired me as a real estate agent, and I helped them sell some local properties that they owned and had their ranch listings. And so some of that property sold and some of it didn't. And so then from that is when I really started saying, hey, I managed a ranch when I was 26 years old to 32 years old. I had the employees. I understand how the systems work. I understand the ag side of it. I understand the recreational guest ranch side of it, the outfitting businesses that people run out of ranches. I've worked with the wealthy clients at that ranch I managed. And those wealthy clients I met back in those days when I was managing that ranch, I always could visit with them, communicate with them. I could help them with their customer service, you could call it, on the ranch, as well as befriend them at cocktail hour and try to learn from them. Like, hey, how did you grow your business? How did you become successful? And a lot of these people became my friends, but it really inspired me that I'm capable of doing more. They respected my talents and my value that I added clear back there at that ranch. And so, you know, that was Mitch Rouse. He was the owner of the ranch back then. And Mitch Rouse had a company called Super Shuttle that he sold. And then he also owned some yellow cab taxi businesses in Southern California. And Mitch Rouse and I are great friends even to this day, and a lot of his family members I'm friends with even after I left the ranch. But those people really inspired me in so many ways that I can deal with this clientele. I can help them with the most significant asset purchase, you know, out there in land real estate sales. These are the highest dollar properties on the market, a lot of them.
Wow. So this is interesting then. So you took all the skills that you had developed that really weren't producing significant income, and you combined it with the ability to talk to people who could bring you significant income. That part right there, though, I feel like would be, I guess, the roadblock for most people, right? I can't talk to guys like Kanye West or other big dollar guys. They're going to think I'm stupid, right? This is it's a thought in a lot of people's minds, right? They're not quite the level of these high dollar, very successful people. Why are you different? What made you able to do that?
Well, so having rubbed shoulders with a lot of them over the last 15 plus years, I feel like they're just people. People are people no matter where you go. There's good people, there's bad people, there's successful people, there's unsuccessful people. For me, it's a lot more about like, it's an analysis thing for me. Like, what do they do that makes them successful? What habits, what routines, you know, what creativity do they bring to the process? And just taking those three examples, like creativity, you know, being around people that are ultra creative, I have to say they're not afraid to fail. That, you know, they come up with these creative ideas and not all of them work, but they wake up tomorrow morning and they come up with another creative idea.
Yeah, right.
And then another guy rubbing shoulders with, you know, this guy's just ultra hyper disciplined and with his systems. And he wakes up and no matter what, he's going to do his system that has helped him become successful. And so people are people no matter where you go. I think it's more learning some of their habits that have helped them overcome it and then applying those to yourself. So for me, it was like, as I've met some of these people, I try to take some of what they've done to become successful and apply it into some of my own things, whether it be real estate sales or other things my wife and I have going on.
Yeah, I think that's a super interesting way, though, to approach talking to someone like that. It's not, you're not necessarily in awe of the product that they have achieved, right? You're more interested in the steps they took and the daily processes they have to get to that point, right? I think a lot of people are so enamored by that aura of a famous person, right? They're like, their first thought is, can I get a picture with that person? Can I get their autograph? Right? That's their first thought versus, okay, I see this person. They're a human being. They're breathing. They eat food. They do everything that every other person does, but they've obviously achieved a level of success. All right, cool. Hi, my name is PJ. How's it going? I can talk to you like a regular person and then start working in like, okay, cool. You got to here. How did you get to that point? Like, I think that's a big difference between you and most people that would have been, just kind of blown away by who they were, right? Not even afraid to talk to them.
Yeah, like we bought some land on the river here in Cody, Wyoming that we're attempting to turn into an RV park.
Okay.
But I use like that little simple development, and that's not going to become some multi-million dollar business. It's just going to be a steady, like little cash flow real estate business, right? For me. But I use a simple thing like that as an opportunity to discuss things with these guys like, hey, I'm not building a cab company, right?
Yeah.
But I am building this little RV park. What are some steps you took in building out your infrastructure that might be beneficial to this? And you can take even a small thing and learn a lot about it by listening to what they have to say about their big thing, right? And you don't have to think that you're going to make the jump from the small-time guy to this huge famous individual or this massively important businessman. It's more about the small steps necessary to accomplish your next project that's in front of you.
So what are some of the things you picked up from some of these guys that you were able to incorporate into your business that made it what it is right now?
So I think the networking, is such an important thing. This is like how you and I met.
Yeah.
If you weren't active
Arete.
out there, Arete, right? If you weren't, I got my Arete coins up here.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah, they're up on my little board there.
That's awesome.
If you weren't actively out there networking, you and I would have never met, even if I wasn't actively networking. And so then people, we were talking before we started the show, that might be beneficial to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people that might be beneficial to you. Yeah. And so boom, we now have a connection and opportunity to refer things to each other, as well as also just add value to each other personally to do and be better. And so I think your network becomes so vitally and important in real estate in all walks of life. But in real estate, we like to call it our sphere of influence, right? And by expanding that sphere of influence and adding people that are better than you versus just adding people that are at your level or less, which is sometimes, you go back to your old, I do this with my kids in their sports, right? They want to guard the player that's equal to them or less than them. And I'm like, no, you want to guard the 5 players that are better than you. And they're going to make your game, elevate to their level.
Absolutely.
And so I think we lose that. Our old high school basketball coaches or hockey coaches used to teach us that. Somewhere in life, though, we kind of put it on a shelf like, well, I don't play sports anymore. But I want to add people into my network or my sphere of influence that make me rise to a new level. Like I talked to you earlier, like one of my goals with Arete was to talk to a different Arete guy, 1 per week for the whole year. That's 52 phone calls. And all 52 people I'm trying to book a call with are people that I feel like are doing something that I would like to do, and I could learn from them, right? Yeah. So I think it's just adding people into that network. And all of those guys I've met through the years on the guest ranches, in the mountains, hunting and fishing with them, they're always building a network that can help them level up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. When I first started, I didn't realize how important that was. You just don't think about those types of things. You think, I'm going to make something and sell it, or I'm going to do a business and do it. You don't realize how important it is to when you're networking. You don't realize how important that is in your business. And a lot of people too, especially early on, they think, not going to talk to that guy. He can't really help me. How much money am I going to get from that guy? Right. A lot of people think that when they first start. It's like, what can I get from that person?
Sure.
Don't think like that. If you immediately come into it thinking, what can I give this person? What can I offer somebody else? Kind of like, even if you have no skills at all, you're brand new at life, maybe it's your energy. Maybe you can talk to somebody and be like, and ask them questions, right? And that is your way of giving them value. You're asking them questions. You're making them feel important, right? That's a great way to do it.
By giving them respect, right?
Absolutely.
Hey,
you have no real skills.
Yep.
Absolutely. And you can provide something to them. And then, and now this person's part of your network, and now this person that would never have been part of your network before is now part of it. Right. So there's all these little things you can do as well to give value and to gain value from other people.
Absolutely.
So at this point right now, what does your business look like? How many employees are we talking? And are you just Wyoming? Are you 100% Wyoming?
Yeah. So there's 4 of us in the state of Wyoming, and we run all over the place. I'm looking to expand a little bit and get some broker licenses in other states, but have not done that yet. But we have to travel a lot to cover the state of Wyoming. So, winter's been a little slow. The real estate market shifted from this humongous boom of inflation and people moving all around the United States from COVID. And it shifted a little bit with the rising interest rates and things. And everything got really quiet over Christmas, the start of the new year. But here in March, it's just taken off again. And we're seeing a lot of action. We got a lot of new listings coming up. We've kind of sold a lot of properties in Wyoming in 2021, 2022. And now here we are in 2023 sitting on low inventory, but we do have a lot of new listings. We're waiting for snow to melt, and we're waiting for winter to get done so we can take pictures of properties while the grass is green, man.
You don't want to just take pictures of snow.
It's one thing if they had a ski resort in their backyard, maybe I'd take the winter pictures, but it's always better to market their property when the grass gets growing green. So
absolutely. I've gone through
some good things coming up in the next month and a half. So,
okay. So,
and then as far as our company, like the main office is in Bozeman, where we have a fantastic staff up there running the office. And the Montana crew is outstanding. That's where the leadership comes from. The owner of the company, Greg Fay. And we just came off of our education summit that we had in Tucson, Arizona. We had a great time of camaraderie with all the different people from around the United States. We did a lot of education work, studying all the various different things going on in the market, whether it's economy, just general real estate knowledge. We had tax guys there teaching us more about 1031 tax exchanges. We had title companies there, helping us become better brokers. So we just came off some big education. And I think one thing to point out, since we're talking about the company, Fay Ranches, is they kind of started a new brand underneath the brand Fay Ranches called the Land Investor. And they got the Land Investor podcast that's coming out soon. They're booking some episodes right now, kind of banking some episodes before they start. And it's going to be a fantastic podcast. It's going to be based out of our office in Bozeman. You'll probably see me hop on there once in a while for them. But the Land Investor podcast is going to be fantastic. They started the Land Investor Instagram page, and all the agents are writing articles that are educational pieces. Yeah. So that we can add value back to our clients, not just like salesmen, but industry experts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Fay Ranches has been doing this for years with a magazine that ships out to around 80,000 people, qualified type buyers that buy these types of properties. And the magazine was called The Land Investor. And so we would have, or Greg Fay would have brokers write articles about various topics, from hunting and fishing to, tax exchanges to where's the economy and real estate market headed, just current event type articles. And then we would have the whole back half of the magazine would be full of all the properties that we have listed for sale. And so the Land Investor magazine's been around, I think there's 8 volumes of it. It's produced annually. And I guess in the current world that we lived in, they shifted to the Land Investor Instagram page and the Land Investor podcast, just to like triple down on that brand, the Land Investor, and really show people who we are and what we stand for. We have superior marketing, and we have expert knowledge with the brokers that are involved. And then we also are relevant. We're current. We're ready to play this game into the future and be a major player in the ranch real estate world for many years to come.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I buy and sell land. So there's probably other land investors listening to this, right? And they're thinking, okay, well, I have land. I want these guys to be my broker. What dollar range, size range, like what are the specs that you look for when you're looking to market a property?
Okay. So our minimum amount we would list a property for is $750,000. Okay. That's the minimum amount. Now, most of our properties come in above that dollar amount. So I've got some listings coming up here in Wyoming that are like $3 and $4 million that aren't working ranches or resort style stuff. They're just beautiful homes on, mountain properties on some live water with maybe 30 to 40 acres or 100 acres. And they're just, 4,000 or 5,000 square foot custom homes that are going to, they're going to be beautiful. And we partner with a lot of different companies, but we'll partner with luxury real estate, Barron's, Mansion Global for a lot of those types of properties to really pump them out to the type of people that are looking for that kind of real estate. Now, then we go even a step further and we sell, agricultural properties that are working production facilities, ranches that can handle 3, 4, 5, 600 head of cattle, hay farms that, have 7 pivots on them and produce, thousands of tons of alfalfa every year. So we really have a large variety there, up to, ranches that are significant. What would I call them? Like a masterpiece of the American Rocky Mountains, where they're large acreages in the most beautiful settings you can imagine. And some of those ranches at Fay will even sell for 20 to 40, $50 million. Wow. Times when someone's ready to let those go. A lot of times those are held in families for many generations too. So
yeah, I've noticed that too. It's a lot of families up there will keep the property and give it to, their kids and their grandkids, because honestly, the property is worth a lot and it's still producing something as well. Sure. So they try to keep it in as much as they can, especially in that northwestern part of the state. They don't like to get rid of those properties too easily anyway.
Yeah, we have a bunch of guys down in Colorado that are, hitting a home run down in Colorado, but it's the same way in Colorado. They're, you find them, but there's a lot of people just want to hold them right now, because once you let them go, it's very difficult to get one back.
Yeah,
that can compare to it.
So in my land world, I see people selling. People are selling it's a selling frenzy right now. And like we talked about earlier, I think people are afraid. Fear is the best thing when you're trying to buy large amounts of real estate like I am, because people are afraid. They watch the news, they see all these things. Oh no, the world's going to fall apart. You don't have, your values, your property is going to go down. You're saying you're not seeing any of that? You're still seeing people holding strong?
Yeah, but we're seeing places sold, but people sell for a variety of reasons, not necessarily just fear. Mm-hmm. Fear could be a reason, but a lot of people, in our world, a lot of people will buy a significant land asset because it's a really good place to invest money. And that's why, we kind of are dealing with a two-sided thing. One is it's a very smart land investment. And on the other side, it's enjoyable. It's a fun thing to go fire up the four-wheelers with your grandkids and drive down and fish the creek, And so you have people with money, whether it be in the stock market or maybe they sell a business somewhere in there. What do we do with the money? Well, maybe the stock market's a little bit rocky right now. It's unstable. It's unknown where this economy's headed. And honestly, land investment's never a bad option, for a long-term hold. And so
I completely agree.
So we're still seeing a lot of buyers that are interested in land investments. And then, the timing of when a seller is going to get rid of that land investment is really based on their family situation, their age. Sometimes it's their finances, it just depends. But, so the sell side is a little bit different than the buy side for sure.
Yeah, I can see that definitely. It's for me, it's I've noticed it's more difficult to sell properties, or for me to sell properties than it is to buy. It's right now, today, it's been very easy to buy, and it's been a little bit more difficult to sell a property. I don't know. Just thinking it's got to be due to something going on out there.
Sure. That listing inventory in all sectors, residential, commercial, farm ranch, all of it's, the inventory is low all the way across the country, which is what's keeping prices driven up high, because there's just not a lot of options right now on the sell side of it. So
yeah. Well, okay. So let's say I want to get in contact with you and I want to do business with you. That's what I want to do. How do I contact you?
So you can find me in my bio at fayranches.com, JW Robinson. You can get a hold of me if you want to just call me up. I don't mind. 307-899-5403. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, JW Robinson and Fay Ranches, right there. And I'm happy to reach out, talk to anybody about land investments anytime, no matter the size of them, really.
Nice.
So I actually absolutely love talking land. So it's never a burden for me to do it.
Yeah, you're the guy in Wyoming, man. So let's say, are you able to, I guess, go and personally show people properties? Are you doing that all the time, like driving out to all these different places in the state?
I do show a lot of properties. Yeah. And it's actually one of my favorite parts of my job, because I get to step foot on some of the most beautiful properties in the country, as well as, just massive pieces of land. You get to drive around a side by side, and talk with the landowner about all the various intricacies of the property. And there's gobs of wildlife on a lot of these ranches. So I absolutely love showing property to people. It's something as a team that we help each other out with. If there's a buyer I have wants to see something on the other side of the state, obviously you pick up the phone and call Kelsey or Neil or somebody that's a little closer and let them help you out on that to cut down on everybody's drive times. But I absolutely love going to show property.
That's awesome. And if you're buying land, there is nothing like standing on your own piece of land.
Oh, it feels great.
I don't know how to describe it, because buying a house, don't get me wrong, everybody likes moving into a new house. It looks great. It's this new house you've always wanted. But when you step on land, it's so much different. I can't put my finger on why it's different, but there's never been a time where I've walked onto a new property that I bought that I haven't been like, I love this. Every property I can convince myself that I'm going to build a house on. You know what I mean? Even if it's a quick flip, even if I plan on selling this thing tomorrow, every time I walk around, I'm like, no, this is the one we're keeping. You walk around on it. There's trees. There's like, everything has its own specific, like, unique personality, right? Yep. It has its own unique personality. Maybe there's some certain type of animals or, certain trees, formations, rocks, something like that. But there's nothing like it, man. So if you get a chance, and you think you might want to get some land, I'd definitely give you a call.
Yep. And I got to put in one more plug for Fay since we're talking about them. We also at Fay started the Fay Ranches Community Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And our big push there is that as real estate agents in rural communities, we want to be agents of change. And a lot of rural communities are dying, you know.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the youth in rural communities leave and never come back. And these towns suffer, school systems suffer, and it's rural communities have a hard time still. I mean, there's a project we're working on up in Oregon, Washington area. I can't quite remember which town it's in, but where they struggle to have good drinking water. You're like,
Wow.
what? In the United States of America, the public school system there is struggling to have good drinking water. And so, you know, they started the Fay Ranches Community Foundation, where we as real estate agents invest back in, you know, from our personal monies and also with clients that we've helped buy ranches, and invest back into projects into rural America that primarily emphasize youth and agriculture and various things. And so I love it because so much real estate sales and sales agents are considered greedy out in the general public, in the mind of the general public.
Yeah.
But then becoming an agent of change, we got a whole brokerage all around the United States that is willing to give our money back to support rural America. And so each agent can grab a project in their local communities, pick up the phone, help fund that project. And so I love the company because it's not all about us and what we're doing, but how we can impact rural America and lands of America for the better.
Yeah, that's awesome too. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think that's interesting about people think that, you know, brokers, people involved in real estate are greedy. Not really sure how that comes out, but, or why that's a thing, but it is, you know? Yeah. And whatever, it's not our place to be figuring that shit out. I'm more worried about making a change. So, and obviously so are you. So, that's really good to see that you guys are actually doing something that helps out communities that couldn't otherwise help themselves.
Yeah. Like I partnered with a school teacher here in Powell, Wyoming, who also owns a fly fishing business.
Oh,
and
nice.
he stays after school on his own time, and he lets kids sign up for the Powell, Wyoming Fishing Club. And these kids learn how to tie flies. They learn how to build their own fishing pole, you know, how to cast it as 6th graders. As 7th graders, he takes them out on the water and teaches them how to catch a fish with a fly rod. As 8th graders, they then are now next year going to help teach the community. Like older people are like, hey, we want to learn how to build a fly rod. We want to learn how to do this better. So the 8th graders are going to take a leadership role in teaching the community about it.
That's awesome.
That's the project I sponsored, and we've raised money to help them long-term have equipment necessary to keep this program going for many years. Because it's my belief, you know, these kids leave rural America and let's just say they go work in corporate America in Denver, Colorado, or Dallas, Texas, or Chicago or someplace. If they got hooked on catching a fish in a Rocky Mountain fly stream when they were in middle school, I will promise you they'll always be coming home to Wyoming and coming back to that rural community. So that's the project I picked, and it's absolutely fun to be involved with the kids, the school teacher, and the foundation to be an agent of change, man. That's what we got to do, all of us.
Absolutely. Agent of change. I love that. That's definitely an Arete philosophy there. You know, you're around like-minded people in Arete with that thought though. So that's awesome. So anything we're missing, JW? What are we missing?
I think we're good to go. I appreciate it, PJ. This has been a good time.
Yeah. I had a good time. And I mean, I really like the, obviously I'll come to you if I have Wyoming properties, but, that's I like the agent of change thing at the end there. That was that's super helpful, and not a lot of people would even mention that. So that's really cool.
Sure.
Here's the final question though, JW. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready, man.
This is deep. This is high level thinking stuff.
Okay.
Here.
Give me the biggest question you got of the day.
The biggest question, Mensa level question here. If you, JW, could buy land anywhere in the world, we are Land Life right there. There's my hat.
Yep.
If you could buy land anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Okay. So I actually woke up in the middle of the night. You prepped me for this question, man. I got to tell them you prepped me. And I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about it because I look at a lot of real estate. And there are a lot of places I would like to own a piece of property. But lately I've had my eyeball on Bluefields, Nicaragua. And I have been looking at a private. So this thing came across my news feed or Instagram reels or something. There's a private island down there off of the city of Bluefields. And it's not even that expensive. The house is a little run down. You gotta have your local family like hook you up with the boat ride out to the island.
Yeah.
And it's affordable, it's doable. And I've been dreaming about it for a couple reasons. Bluefields, Nicaragua isn't infested by tourists yet. So it's peaceful, quiet. It's almost like wilderness. It's almost like Wyoming wilderness to me, just in a different part of the world.
Sure.
Number two, it has all the aspects of some of the best Gulf of Mexico type fishing, but without the tourism industry. And I absolutely love open water sea fishing, deep sea fishing. So I can just envision myself there. And number three, I don't need some fancy big mansion, like resort, walk out onto the beach sort of thing and luxury facility. I could envision myself there with a couple of locals and my son, rebuilding the deck, repainting the house. It's almost therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
To make the old property look fresh and new.
Yeah.
And yet still get my fishing, still get my wilderness like away from people. And that's my place.
That's awesome. So have you gone down there? Have you been to this place?
What's that?
Do you have a plan to go down there?
So I have been planning to go down there. I found this place this winter and it could sell before I get down there unless you tell me I need to take some action. So
I think you should take some action. Yeah, I don't think you should wait. I think the fact that you just
I've been sniffing around
a bunch
about
of rich dudes from Arete that this thing exists, you might want to jump on that now because there might be some. I can hold off from posting this video.
Okay.
I can if you want. But
so I also think it'd be beneficial for my kids to see some other culture.
Yeah.
Of how other people have to live besides Americans.
Yeah.
And not just in that resort style town along the coast, but more of like it's a little bit of an unknown little spot down there. So that was my spot. And we've been looking hard at it. We've been considering it. And there's more than just that one out there. I mean, once I was looking at a private island, I looked at 100 of them,
Right. What about Wyoming in the summer, Nicaragua in the winter?
Hey, it could happen. It could happen. I need to investigate how to sell land in northern South America.
Yeah. Or you just work online from your house in Nicaragua.
And we can still work online back in Wyoming. So I think big, so it's on my brain, it's on my mind. So
yeah, let's get this thing at least go down there. Let's say, hey, I want to stay here for a week. Is that okay? We're thinking about looking at buying properties out here. Maybe I could rent it as like an Airbnb just for a week. Is that okay? Dude, I'm telling you, man. Punch it, man. That shit's going to be gone in the day this thing releases. Someone else is going to put it.
Someone's going to find that place and go buy it.
Absolutely, man. And then you're going to be like, dude, I missed my opportunity. Just like me with those Florida houses.
That's right.
All right, JW. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too, PJ. Thank you.
All right, guys. Till next time, I'll see you on Landlife.